Ein Diktat als Diktat!
Civilization cannot tolerate their being ignored.
What happened in Nazi Germany, it doesn't happen suddenly.
Evil men can convince ordinary men to do evil things.
What if I told you that in the darkest depths of human cruelty, there were atrocities so horrific that they defy comprehension? In Auschwitz, pregnant women were subjected to unimaginable horrors, dehumanized, tortured, and used as mere tools in twisted experiments. But amidst this nightmare, there were glimmers of resistance, acts of heroism by women who risked everything to save lives. Auschwitz, the largest of the Nazi concentration and extermination camps, was not just a place of death, but a breeding ground for some of the most grotesque experiments and cruelties ever inflicted on humankind. Among the countless victims were pregnant women who faced unique and unimaginable tortures. Their pregnancies were seen not as a reason for compassion, but as opportunities for brutal experimentation and sadistic punishment. The Nazis' ideology of racial purity deemed the unborn children of Jewish, Romani and other undesirable women as threats to the Aryan race. This twisted belief fueled some of the most horrifying acts ever committed against pregnant women, acts that would leave an indelible stain on history. Upon arrival at Auschwitz, pregnant women were immediately subjected to a dehumanizing process. Stripped of their dignity, they were separated from their families with no regard for their condition. Many were sent directly to the gas chambers, their pregnancies sealing their fates. Those who were not immediately killed faced a fate that in some ways was even worse. One of the most infamous figures in Auschwitz was Dr. Joseph Mengele, known as the Angel of Death. Mengele was particularly interested in experimenting on pregnant women, viewing them as perfect subjects for his grotesque medical experiments. Pregnant women were subjected to forced abortions, often performed without anesthesia, leading to unimaginable pain and suffering. Others were forced to endure experiments aimed at discovering how long a fetus could survive in the womb under starvation conditions. Mengele's experiments were not the only horrors faced by pregnant women. The Nazis also conducted sterilizations, often using brutal methods that resulted in severe injury or death. These procedures were not just about preventing the birth of undesirable children, but were also a means of inflicting maximum pain and suffering on the mothers. Another Nazi doctor who inflicted unspeakable horrors on pregnant women was Dr. Karl Klauberg. Klauberg was obsessed with discovering a cheap and efficient method of mass sterilization. Using pregnant women as his subjects, he injected caustic chemicals directly into their reproductive organs, causing excruciating pain, permanent injury, and often death. His experiments were intended to develop a method to sterilize millions of women quickly, stripping them of their ability to bear children and effectively annihilating entire populations. For any prisoner in Auschwitz, survival was a daily battle. But for pregnant women, the challenges were even more harrowing. Women in the camps were already vulnerable, stripped of their dignity, separated from their loved ones, and subjected to brutal physical labor. The additional burden of pregnancy made them targets for the Nazis' cruel experiments and punishments. The fear of being discovered, the physical strain of carrying a child, and the constant threat of death created an unimaginable psychological burden. Pregnant women were not only fighting for their survival, but also for the lives of their unborn children. The knowledge that any sign of pregnancy could result in immediate execution or a fate worse than death was a constant source of terror. This vulnerability made them easy targets for the Nazis' sadistic whims, and many were forced to make unimaginable choices in their desperate attempts to protect their babies. Was a pervasive and horrifying reality in the concentration camps, and for many women, it was yet another way in which their bodies were violated by their captors. Pregnancies resulting from were particularly dangerous, as they could easily lead to a death sentence. The Nazis had no mercy for women who became pregnant in the camps, especially those impregnated by rape. These women were often subjected to forced abortions, where their suffering was compounded by the trauma of the assault and the brutal procedures that followed. The psychological torment inflicted on these women was profound. The knowledge that their pregnancy, a result of rape, could lead to their death or the death of their child added another layer of horror to their already unbearable existence. For some, the only way to avoid detection and certain death was to attempt to abort the pregnancy themselves, risking severe injury or death in the process. Amidst the horror, there were women who risked everything to provide care and comfort to pregnant prisoners. One such woman was Stanisława Lestrzyska, a Polish midwife who was imprisoned in Auschwitz. Despite the constant threat of death, Lestrzyska delivered over 3,000 babies in the camp, often in the most appalling conditions. She defied the orders of Nazi doctors who commanded her to kill the newborns, instead doing everything she could to protect them and their mothers. Lestrzyska's courage was matched only by her deep compassion. In the place where hope was scarce, she provided a glimmer of it. Even as she faced the possibility of execution every day, her actions were a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the power of maternal instinct. She fought against the dehumanization imposed by the Nazis, ensuring that every child she delivered was treated with dignity, even in the face of almost certain death. Despite the dire circumstances, Lestrzyska managed to create a sense of community among the women she helped. She became a symbol of resistance, not through violence, but through her unwavering commitment to preserving life. Her work in Auschwitz stands as a powerful reminder of the impact one person can have, even in the most oppressive and deadly of environments. Another heroic figure was Dr. Gisela Perl, a Jewish gynecologist who was forced to work under Mengele. Pearl performed countless secret abortions, knowing that if the pregnancies were discovered, both mother and child would be killed. Her actions, though gut-wrenching, were acts of mercy, intended to save as many lives as possible in the face of impossible choices. Dr. Pearl's courage extended beyond her medical duties. She also became a confidant and source of comfort for the women in the camp, offering them what little hope she could in a place designed to strip away every last vestige of it. Her work in Auschwitz was a constant battle against despair, and her dedication to saving lives, despite the horrific circumstances, was nothing short of extraordinary. After the war, Dr. Pearl's experiences in Auschwitz haunted her as she struggled to reconcile the life-saving actions she took with the moral weight of her decisions. Despite this, her legacy is one of profound bravery and compassion. She exemplified the strength of the human spirit in the face of unimaginable evil, and her story continues to inspire those who learn of her incredible sacrifices. One of the most famous survivors of Auschwitz was Olga Lengyel, a Hungarian Jewish woman who lived to tell her harrowing story. Lengyel was a trained nurse who was deported to Auschwitz with her family. Despite the overwhelming despair and constant threat of death, she became a beacon of hope for many of the women in the camp. Lengyel used her medical knowledge to assist fellow prisoners, often risking her life to provide care in secret. Lengyel's survival was a testament to her extraordinary resilience and determination. After the war, she wrote a powerful memoir titled 5 Chimneys, a woman survivor's true story of Auschwitz, in which she detailed the unspeakable horrors she witnessed and endured. Her book became one of the earliest and most important accounts of the Holocaust, giving a voice to the countless women who did not survive. Lengyel's legacy extends beyond her survival and her memoir. After the war, she became a tireless advocate for Holocaust education and the remembrance of those who perished. Her work helped to ensure that the atrocities committed in Auschwitz would not be forgotten, and that future generations would learn from the horrors of the past. Olga Lengyel's story is a powerful reminder of the strength of the human spirit and the importance of bearing witness to history. Rachel Gleitman-Freund's story is one of remarkable resilience amid unimaginable horror. She was a Jewish woman from Czechoslovakia who found herself pregnant when she was deported to Auschwitz. Unlike many others, Rachel managed to hide her pregnancy for a considerable time, a feat that required constant vigilance and ingenuity. Her ability to conceal this fact was nothing short of miraculous, considering the ever-watchful eyes of the Nazi guards and the brutal conditions she faced daily. Rachel's experience was marked by the constant threat of death, not only for herself but for her unborn child. The Nazis were ruthless in their persecution of pregnant women, often sending them to the gas chambers immediately upon discovery, or subjecting them to forced abortions and medical experiments. Rachel was acutely aware of these dangers, and her memoirs reflect the sheer terror she felt every day as she struggled to keep her pregnancy hidden. As her pregnancy advanced, Rachel knew that her time was running out. She began to seek out help from other women in the camp, many of whom were medical professionals or had some experience in childbirth. In her memoirs, Rachel recounts the incredible bravery and compassion shown by these women, who risked their lives to assist her. They helped her craft makeshift clothing to hide her growing belly, and gave her advice on how to move and act to avoid detection. Rachel eventually gave birth to her child in Auschwitz under conditions that defy belief. The delivery took place in secret, aided by a handful of other female prisoners who were determined to help Rachel and her baby survive. The newborn's cries had to be stifled immediately to avoid attracting attention, and the women quickly devised a plan to keep the infant hidden. Rachel's memoirs describe the excruciating emotional pain of having to suppress her maternal instincts, knowing that any sign of the baby could mean death for both of them. Tragically, Rachel's child did not survive the brutal conditions of Auschwitz. The loss of her baby was a devastating blow, compounded by the physical and emotional toll of childbirth in such horrific circumstances. However, Rachel's story did not end in complete despair. After the war, she was liberated from Auschwitz and eventually emigrated to Israel, where she rebuilt her life. In her memoirs, she speaks openly about the trauma of her experience, particularly the loss of her child, and the complex feelings of guilt and grief that haunted her for years. Rachel Gleitman-Freund's story is a powerful testament to the strength of the human spirit. Her ability to survive and eventually thrive after such an ordeal is a source of inspiration to many. Her memoirs have become an important part of Holocaust literature, shedding light on the unique struggles faced by pregnant women in Auschwitz, and the extraordinary lengths they went to in order to protect their unborn children. Rachel's legacy is not just one of survival, but of resilience and the enduring power of hope. Even in the face of overwhelming darkness, she found the strength to keep going, to rebuild her life and bear witness to the atrocities she endured. Her story continues to resonate with readers around the world, offering a poignant reminder of the horrors of the Holocaust and the remarkable courage of those who survived. Beyond the physical torment, pregnant women in Auschwitz were subjected to psychological torture. They were often forced to witness the murder of their children or the brutal treatment of other women. The constant threat of death, coupled with the Nazis' attempts to strip away any semblance of hope or humanity, left deep psychological scars on survivors. The Nazis employed cruel tactics to break the spirits of pregnant women. They were sometimes falsely promised that their pregnancies would protect them, only to be sent to the gas chambers or used in experiments. This manipulation of hope and fear was a deliberate strategy to dehumanize and control the women, making their suffering all the more unbearable. As the war drew to a close and the Allies advanced, Auschwitz was liberated in January 1945. The survivors, including some of the pregnant women who had endured unimaginable horrors, were freed. However, liberation was not the end of their suffering. The physical and psychological scars left by the Nazis' atrocities would haunt them for the rest of their lives. For many, the trauma of Auschwitz extended far beyond the end of the war. Survivors faced the challenge of rebuilding their lives, often while grappling with the loss of their children, their health, and their sense of self. The stories of these women, though harrowing, are a testament to the resilience. The stomach-churning things done to pregnant women in Auschwitz serve as a chilling reminder of the depths of human cruelty. But they also highlight the incredible strength and courage of those who fought back, who refused to let their humanity be stripped away. We must remember these stories not just as a lesson in the horrors of the past, but as a call to ensure that such atrocities are never allowed to happen again. Let their stories be a beacon, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there are those who will stand up for what is right, who will protect life even when faced with unimaginable evil. These women, both the victims and the heroes, deserve to be remembered, not just for what they endured, but for their courage, their strength, and their humanity. If this video moved you, if it made you reflect on the horrors of the past and the resilience of the human spirit, then please share it. Share it so that others may learn, may remember, and may join the fight against hatred and cruelty. Let us ensure that the stories of these women are never forgotten. Thank you for watching.